So being a person of color, you are a minority in a country of whites. How are you finding it? For those that are just joining us, this is part 2 of the relocation journey to New Zealand. For the first part of the video, I'll put the link just up there so you can find it there. My name is Priska Ngoma. I am a registered nurse. I'm working in the United Kingdom, but I'm trained in Malawi. And my guest is Hanna Chiende. Hanna is in New Zealand. In the first part of the video, Hanna has told us about the processes to register with the New Zealand Nurses Council. So you're a registered nurse in New Zealand. Welcome back, Hanna.
Thank you.
So we have talked about the processes and all that sort, but people would want to know, how is life in New Zealand? Should they make that decision, the risk to relocate to New Zealand? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I would urge people to come to New Zealand. New Zealand is a nice country. It's like an island isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's so nice and has a population of 5 million. Not much people in the country. It's just few people. Sometimes when you're walking down the streets, you just feel like you're all alone because not many people will be around. And in safety wise, it's really good. It's rare to hear some criminal issues taking place, and also the education system is good, though expensive, especially childcare is not easy. As you know, life in overseas, the way they want us to keep close eye on our kids until they are independent at about 14 years. So you need to make sure that every time a parent is at home with a kid, if they're not in school, you need to take them at the appropriate time. Most of the schools here start at around 8:45 and finish at 3 o'clock sharp PM. So you need to adjust your work system to make sure that by around those time, you are able to drop in and pick up your children from school. Because if you don't, then you hear from the police, they will report you. And also, there are so many opportunities for advancing your career, especially, when you first come to New Zealand, you come on a work visa. A work visa currently is valid for 5 years, but registered nurses have been prioritized to say that once you get your work visa, you can apply for, we call it a straight to residence visa, whereby you have the indefinite to live rights. So you can apply even within 2 weeks of getting the work visa. Even if you're still overseas and you got the job in New Zealand, you can apply straight away and you get
You're
offered.
serious?
Yeah. So the benefits of being on this resident visa is that you can work wherever you want, whatever job you want. You are not limited to anything. The disadvantage with the work visa is that you need to stick to the employer, and that at the same very job, you don't need to change for the duration of your visa. So I would urge anyone immediately to switch to the resident visa if you were not sponsored by any employer coming to New Zealand, that is. You're good to go. So if you have this resident visa, you are eligible to get some of the fundings like the scholarships in advancing your career. You can do that and they'll fund you with no difficulties. After 2 years on the residence visa, you can apply for permanent residence. Then 5 years down the line after holding your residence, you apply for citizenship. So it's just a quicker route, which one would for it.
That sounds enticing enough.
Yeah, because being on a work visa, a temporary one, you are limited to a lot of things which you cannot do. Even if you are for less hours, it means you can't work extra hours. You just need to stick. But the good thing is if you have a spouse, you can bring them over. They'll have open work rights to say they can work for whoever employer they want. Yeah, so that's the advantage as well.
Okay. You talked on something about childcare. That's something I wanted to ask as well.
Yeah.
Does the government provide any sponsorship for childcare?
Yeah, the government does offer 20 hours of free every week for kids who are around 3 years to 5.
Is
So
that even when you're on sponsor, not on a visa, or
yeah,
when you
on a
get your
temporary
permanent
working visa, you are also eligible for that.
20 hours?
Yeah, 20 hours of free education for the kids, but the rest of the hours you need to pay. So if you can just divide 20 hours per week, which is at least affordable, you can just add minor ones. But if they're below 3, it means you are full responsible for everything. So it's really hard, especially when you need to juggle around work and also look at family. So you need to arrange your shifts to say if you're working morning, then husband would opt for the other hours to make sure that someone is around at home to look after the kids. Because if you enroll them to any kindergarten or daycare, it's really expensive because you need to be paying a minimum wage, which is currently at $30 an hour. So if you're leaving them for at least 6 hours, it means it will cost you more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or even if
I'm,
you maybe,
I'm laughing like it's a good thing.
yeah, even if you're looking for nannies just to come and look after your child, they're charging around $31 an hour. So you need to meet all those costs, especially if you're rostered on a public holiday and then your child is not going to school. That means you're going to pay more because on a public holiday they expect the double pay. Yeah.
Wow. What's the shift pattern for nurses?
Okay, the shift pattern, every nurse is supposed to work 8 hours per day. That's the normal regulation.
You.
Yeah,
At least that's 888.
yeah, it's just 8 hours. But the minimum per week, most of the nurses would go to 32 hours or 40 hours, depends on the agreement with the employer. The good thing here is that they believe in work and family balancing of life. You choose the kind of shifts that you want, especially if you're working in the nursing homes. The
Mm.
nursing home, you might have a fixed roster to say if you want PM shifts. For the hours I talked about, the 8 hours, if you are doing an AM shift, you start at 6:45, you
Mm.
finish at 3:30 hours. If you are starting your shift in the PM shift start at 2:45, it ends at 11:15. If you're doing a night shift, then you start your shift at 11, then you
Mm.
finish at 7 a.m. But if you're working in the intensive care unit, it's a 12-hour shift. Only those working in ICU, it's a 12-hour shift.
And to think that ICU is my favorite and it's 12-hour shift. Yeah. That's the same with here anyway. The shifts are just into 12-hour day, 12-hour night. That's
Oh,
it. There is no 8 hours in between also.
my goodness.
But that's good. The 8-hour shift, that's good for childcare. You can opt to work a morning
Yes.
shift. You come and pick your ward.
Yeah, that's doable.
Okay. So if you're to ask to advise a nurse between the hospital and the care homes, which one would you advise the people to go to?
I would say everyone should choose whichever area they want because the pay is not different here.
It's the
It's all
same.
it's the same. It's only that it will depend with the care homes. If it is a care home which has got a lot of residents, they do pay an extra incentive just
Mm,
to motivate the nurses. As you know, in care, I've worked both the care home and the hospital. I'm currently in a hospital now. I've worked in the care home for almost a year and some months.
mm.
So it depends with which care home there's a competition on the market. You see another job, there's not a fixed rate to say nurses should receive this amount of money as their wages, or I would say wages because here in New Zealand we get paid every fortnight.
Mm.
Yeah. So it will depend on who has employed you. Some would pay higher, some lower. So you choose whichever area you want. You're flexible to go everywhere. There will just be a difference of $2 or $4 only.
Okay. So just not your pay, but roughly, how much do nurses earn by that fortnight in New Zealand dollars?
I'll just mention about the hourly rate that I know
Our rate,
around.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
some would offer a nurse an hourly rate of 51 New Zealand dollars, and the lowest paid would give a $47 per hour.
Mm.
Yeah, so it depends with you. But if you are working a PM, any shift that starts from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m., they pay time and a half.
And the earn enhancement, yes.
Yeah, if you're working a night shift, they'll also pay 25% of your wage if you do nights. That is the nurses organization had to negotiate with the government to say that. And if you're working during a public holiday, you get a double pay.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah,
That's if you are to convert 51 New Zealand dollars to Malawi kwacha, how much would that be?
56,000.
53,000.
56.
56,000
Yeah,
an hour.
yes.
Okay. Let us all come to New Zealand.
Oh my word.
Anyway, um, but when it comes to the UK, we all scream about the taxes. You look at your payslip, there is this national insurance, there is this tax. You get your pay, you go home, there are these
Yeah.
bills, council tax that you have to pay. How are the taxes in New Zealand?
Yeah, that's the only drawback because when you get a lot of money, the gross pay is just huge. But when they start the reductions, then the tax is so high. And the rentals, we pay here rentals every week. It's a weekly payment for the rentals.
Wow.
And for the bills, it's monthly. So you can
Mm.
see that it's really a challenge. You need to work around your budgets to make sure that you are covered with everything. And accommodation is expensive here, but for the bills, we have free water. We don't pay for water, but electricity and Wi-Fi, that's what we pay. Yeah,
The transport system, how is it? Can you survive without a car?
you can, but then it will inconvenience you, especially if you have a child, because you need to work around the times to make sure that
Mm.
by this time you need to be at the exact place. Because if you miss just with 5 minutes in picking up a child, you are in trouble with the social service. They'll be on your neck about everything. So I think a car would do because the buses have got their own schedule. Sometimes they will delay.
Mm-mm.
So I would advise one that if you're coming overseas, please learn how to drive because it's the ideal thing to do.
Okay. You've now I'm just asking questions as they are coming. You've talked
Okay.
about driving. Can you convert the Malawi driving license to New Zealand, or you still have to go to driving school?
You still need to take their theoretical exam as well as the driving test. But they give you a duration of 1 year to say once you come here, you can still be driving whilst waiting to convert your license.
Ah, okay. That gives
Yeah.
you time to
Yeah.
maneuver the loads. Once you're doing the test, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So being a person of color,
Mhm.
you are a minority in a country of whites. How are you finding it?
I don't see any like discrimination or racism. We have got good people here in New Zealand, especially the Maori ones. They are
Mm.
really good and friendly. Even when I was coming, I was scared to say, what am I going to find? How am I going to survive? But when I came, oh my goodness, I was so impressed. They're just friendly people who are accommodative and they're ready to offer support.
Now that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that people worry about, but I'm glad to say
Yeah, I
you're
haven't
happy.
heard of any. Of course, I'm in Wellington, so specifically, and I haven't met anyone from Malawi. I just know we have got two Malawians in Wellington, but we haven't yet had the chance to meet. A lot of Malawians are in Auckland because Auckland is the biggest city, so most of
Mm.
them are there. And most of the people of Nigeria, Zimbabwe are the ones that are in huge numbers. And they are so friendly. When you meet them, they will try to make a friendship with you because it's just fewer colored people here. Yeah.
All right. I don't have more questions. I just wanted a rough picture of life in New Zealand for me and for everybody.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add before we wrap up.
Oh, I just believe that whatever I've explained about New Zealand would keep someone thinking to say, should I really make the move to New Zealand? I would urge you to make the move and come to New Zealand. We should be together here, enjoying life, exploring what life has to offer in New Zealand. And I believe for one to make a move, to move overseas, it means you have done your research and you think that you're eligible to do so. Don't be worried about the system to say, how am I going to find money? How am I going to do this? Everything will sort itself in order. I did not come here as a nurse straightforward. I did not mention that. I came as a healthcare assistant because of the
Okay.
same thing to say when I looked around all these amounts that I mentioned with the currency in Malawi, I couldn't have afforded by that the time that I was thinking of migrating overseas. So in 2022, the doors were widely open for New Zealand. They were desperate for healthcare workers. So they were recruiting even healthcare assistants from abroad. So I took that chance to come here. When I came in January and then I started working, getting my pay, that's when I embarked on the registration process. I was done within 4 months with the registration process. So I believe that everyone has got their own destined path. Don't be discouraged but about whatever information I've given to everyone here. Do your research. You may discover another route, but for the time being, the pathway of healthcare assistant coming from overseas, they've closed it from last year, August. So
Um,
I think whenever you have your own blessing on that path, don't lose your hope. Keep on working hard. You may also be likely to find an employer from here whilst you're back home who may be willing to sponsor you. It's all about researching. Spend your time on the internet. The only problem with us Malawians, we don't take time to research things. We just want someone to give us the information at hand.
on
But
a
if
silver platter.
yeah, so research, 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 you have your answers. Above all, leave everything in the hands of the Lord, and you come one day to testify about the goodness of the Lord. I rest my case.
All right. Thank you so much, Hannah.
You're
So
welcome.
that's the end of part 2. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button, hit the notification button, hit the subscribe button. So every time we make a new video, you are able to get it within reach.